educators, parents, students, and anyone within ear's reach of my voice. Welcome to a new season of Meetings with Mugs, a podcast all about positive impacts in education. This is episode number 1 of season 2. For those of you who are new to my podcast, this is a place where I highlight individuals who have taken positive actions and have made great impacts as a result. Not only that, this is a platform for creating change. My mission as an educator is to create a better way of life in society by generating a better educational way of life for scholars. Many of the problems we have in society are the results of scholars who have been left behind, dropped out of school, and have become detriments to themselves and our way of life. Through infusing social emotional learning, statistics, and positivity, I am throwing one starfish at a time back into the sea. Therefore, I encourage you all to take the weekly journey with me every Wednesday evening and bring a friend. Tag your educator friends and encourage families to watch as well. My content is always viewer friendly and it is designed for parents and students as well. Today's episode is entitled Setting the Tone. The message is centered around the positive actions you can take in the beginning of the school year to ensure your scholars start the year with the confidence they need to achieve and to be successful. Many schools may be in session for several weeks now. And while many times we feel we may have missed the window of opportunity for certain procedures to occur and be effective, it is never too late to ensure the safety and the well-being of scholars. Why setting the tone? Well, September is National Suicide Prevention Month. According to the National Institute of Mental Health, suicide is the leading cause of deaths in youth ages 5 to 24. Prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, youth suicide rates were on the incline. Unfortunately, COVID-19, it exacerbated those rates and have since continued to rise. The first actions we must take as educators are to make scholars feel safe and confident. Of course, we want to lay down the law with the rules and the procedures. That is no doubt. But these days, institutions want to jump right into instruction and make preparations for the big test. Contrary to this logic, if we have not created an environment that allows scholars to thrive, we are essentially trying to drive on a flat tire. Oftentimes in education, we are reactionary to the well-being of the scholars while driving instruction. It is a component learning institutions rather embed into the school year rather than proactively taking it seriously. As an administrator, I have seen firsthand how school years begin with tedious administrative paperwork and professional development that is more concerned with everything else except the well-being of our scholars. Social emotional learning programs have not been utilized effectively, if at all. The summer is always loaded with instructional know-how and ways to grow the capacity of teachers and their pedagogy. But what about professional development that grows the capacity of a teacher's awareness of themselves and of their scholars? What about professional development that helps scholars learn coping skills? Or what about professional development that helps educators learn de-escalation strategies? We infuse positive behavior intervention supports, PBIS, into schools, rewarding the scholars who have behaviorally performed well. But what about the scholars who have not? Are we utilizing the other component of PBIS, which requires strategies for supporting the scholars who did not meet expectations? That, ladies and gentlemen, is the difference in leaving scholars behind and allowing them to become detrimental. How do we fix these issues? Well, it's simple. School districts need to take SEL programs more seriously. If you are a school leader, I encourage you to implement the federally mandated SEL programs into your weekly instruction. There's time for it. Make it happen. You know, a study showed that a low socioeconomic school that utilized an SEL program had significant influence over its academic results. But yet, we continue to batter educators and scholars with academic curriculum in hopes that some of it will remain ingrained. For instance, Mr. Jean, you're 3 weeks behind in your pacing guide for lessons. Let's create an action plan to cut out some of the parts of the lesson to help you get caught up. And you must follow this roadmap to ensure you expose the students to all of the curriculum before the test. I'll check back with you in a week to make sure you are following the plan. So, what you're saying is these parts are not integral to conceptualizing the learning? Let me tell you what that does, lads and lassies. It puts undue stress on the educator, who then in turn transfers that stress to the scholars. Why? Because there is a timeline, and timelines cause stress, especially when they are unrealistic. That too is a fact. And did you know that a main contributive factor in school improvement is making the job easier for educators? Yet, somehow, we continue to batter that mezzanine in education with more duties. We get raises, and what happens next? More duties. Now, do you think the national teacher shortage is due to making more money or having more duties? Let your tea steep or let your coffee brew on that one. In other words, let it marinate. So how can we reduce the stress for everyone involved? Implement the SEL programs. As educators unfold the SEL curriculum, they will have takeaways from what they are providing to the scholars. But beforehand, expose the educators to the curriculums in SEL. Provide them with the professional development to implement with fidelity. Show them the statistical facts so they have a better understanding of what they are trying to convey. There is no denying the numbers. It gives more meaning to what they are doing as educators. Next, provide the implementation. It's all tertiary. Tier 1, time can be taken and set aside for lessons to be taught on a weekly basis by the educators. For those of you who don't know, SEL programs and lessons are embedded into physical education curriculums in many states. So PE teachers, please stop handing scholars a ball and expect vast learning to take place. Sure, they will learn how to interact, but will they know how to resolve a conflict in a positive manner if that skill has not been taught? Tier 2, there are online programs that students can work on individually. Just as we provide time for RTI academically, the same needs to be done for social and emotional purposes. And Tier 3, those lessons and services can be enhanced when students have been referred to counselors and or have been given exclusionary consequences such as detention, in-school suspension, or out-of-school suspension. And not only that, when we celebrate the students who never received a write-up during the grading period, utilize that time to provide more strategies to reach the students that were not rewarded. Now, there's a trick to it. Don't just put a horde of them in a holding cell with busy work. That is a setup for a disastrous outcome. Instead, divide the horde up and give them a lesson, not a lesson that penalizes them and expects them to remain silent the entire time, but something meaningful toward the strategies. Making the lesson interesting. Make the lesson fun so they can conceptualize the lesson. They have already been punished. So, by the way, did you know that all learning should be fun? Of course, it sinks in. Another way learning institutions can try to motivate students and faculty with SEL is by utilizing guest speakers and professional development facilitators such as myself. Specifically, implanting guests and speakers who have a connection to the institution provides a realization for the scholars and can illustrate the component of responsible decision making. A good way to leverage this learning, again, is by dividing up the hordes. The message will be better served if it's conveyed in small portions to small groups. Small groups allow learning to be more intimate and detailed for the audience. We often see guest speakers engage a whole school at a time, and there is nothing wrong with that. There is completely nothing wrong with that approach. But in some scenarios, smaller sample sizes allow the message to entrench itself because of the ability to maintain the attention in a smaller setting and offer a more personalized approach. As for staff, PLCs can be utilized throughout the school, throughout the year, to enhance their understanding of the importance and the use of SEL programs. You see, equipping educators with the training and the components of SEL and other programs such as brain science can yield more productive results in the classroom. By the way, shout out to my man Andre Desatel with the brain science. I'm going to get you on here soon. Now back to setting the tone and what can be done at the onset of the school year. The component of relationship skills is a key area in SEL programs. It is the ability to develop and maintain healthy relationships with others. Those others are your scholars. The first day should not only be dedicated to helping scholars get the lay of the land with policies and procedures, but also with forming meaningful bonds with learners. Those times should be dedicated to scholars completing interest inventories, and from there, conducting meaningful group and individual conversations. These are healthy times for scholars to discover and set goals for themselves. At the same time, you as the educator, with their cooperation, can develop a plan to help them achieve those goals. It is also an excellent time for your scholars to discover characteristics of yourself. For instance, I have a lifelong nickname of Scooter. Yes. And many of my scholars know that I play music on the weekends. Well, my stage alias just happens to be Uncle Scooter because I'm the oldest guy, right? And they know that. And I allow them to own that piece of me and refer to me as such respectfully and in joyful play within the hallways. Why? Because now I have an intimacy with them that allows me to have a more serious conversation that can provide motivation. And no, ladies and gentlemen, not intimacy as in sexual relationship. And yes, I do hold scholars accountable. There's always a fine balance between play and earnest. Well, nonetheless, those relationships are the beginning of social awareness, another component of SEL programs, which is the ability to be empathetic to our scholars and their situations. And finally, as we speak of balance, the strategies I have provided today in the realm of social and emotional learning throughout a campus don't come close to balancing the scales between SEL and academic instruction. But if we do, as so much of what I have highlighted, we can perhaps begin to see a decrease in the suicide rates of our youth and also begin to usher along scholars that tend to get left behind. Well, as I always conclude, ladies and gentlemen, I ask, what is in your cup of positivity? Well, what is in my cup today is in the words of rapper Kevin Gates: be a man of understanding. Be a person who understands the lives of the scholars you are charged with transforming. In today's society, we don't understand each other enough. The lack of understanding is causing us to not connect with one another, and at worst, kill each other. So, to the educators, the parents, the students, and anyone within ear's reach of my voice, be good to one another. See you next week for Season 2, Episode 2 of Meetings with Mugs. Peace.